team players, you are just asking for failure at the end of the day.
Right now, do you ever see it with the analogy that the triangle is turned upside down, and that a lot of the power does emanate from the provinces when you're trying to vote and get something approved based on the board, that really it only takes Ontario and Quebec to shut everything down, to say, no, this isn't going to happen when it really does affect national programs and the entire country, not just those two provinces? Is that something that may need to be looked at, just the voting structure, in order to be able to move forward and get some of the ideas that you feel need to happen?
Yeah, if you look at our, I always like to relate it to the world that you live in. If you look at our governance, if you look at the FIFA governance structure in terms of the voting structure, it is different than what we have. We have taken a system on basically how the Canadian system works, proportional representation. I'm not sure why it was established way back when, but we have a proportional representation. The reality is that most of our players play in that sort of area between Southern Ontario and Quebec. So the reality is those two provinces carry the majority of the vote. The only time there's an issue with respect to that voting is when the budget comes. However, I think it's incumbent on us, the CSA, and the people within the CSA, and that is including Ontario and Quebec, that if the plan is solid, if the plan is coherent, if the financial situation is matched up with that plan, I don't see why, even in that voting structure, why there should be a problem, quite frankly. It's not brain surgery. Everybody knows. I think it needs a leap of faith by people in this organization, from top to bottom, to say, you know what, we're committed to this, and this is the way we're going to move forward. And I think through our president, who has done a lot of work in the strategic plan with Peter Montagliani, our general secretary, we've laid out a 4-year plan. It's an organic document, and it's going to work on it. But there has to take a leap of faith. I know we've always compared to other associations, and the one that we always like to compare ourselves to is Australia. But the key to what Australia did is not just making changes, and they made some changes. And obviously they had a huge influx of money, which was a big carrot from the government. But there also was a leap of faith from their membership to say, you know what, we want to get to the World Cup.
Where do you go now as far as coaching as well? Obviously, Dale Mitchell has been on the hot seat for the last month or so with players coming out that have been unhappy the way things have gone. Other players taking the high road and waiting until qualifying is officially over. But what sort of meetings take place as far as a post-mortem to discuss where you move forward with coaching? Dale Mitchell was hired as national team head coach after a failed U20 tournament that was held in Canada, and now a failed World Cup qualifying campaign. What sort of points do you look at as far as bringing him back, and how does that whole process take part? Stephen Hart is the technical director, but he's also the one of the assistant coaches for the national team. So how do you actually go back and say, okay, here's what went right and here's what went wrong?
I think, first of all, just to be clear, when Dale was hired, he was hired actually before the U20s. Just to make a point clear, he was hired in May of 2007. So he already had that appointment before the under-20. Obviously, we all know what happened with the under-20. Obviously, there was a concern. There's no doubt there was a concern. I'm sure there was a concern even with Dale himself in terms of that didn't go that well. But obviously, he took on the new challenge. And you know what? Again, pointing back to the preparation of the team, the results. He was preparing the team, looking at a sort of pool of players, and it culminated with a very good last preparation game, against Brazil. So at the end of that preparation, everybody felt very confident with the players and with the staff.
Is there going to be more of an effort in the future? A lot of times in the past, it's been very difficult to find out what has been going on inside the CSA by the public, by the fans, by the media, that it's very difficult to understand what goes on and how it goes on in the future, to be more transparent, to make announcements, this is what we're doing going forward, this is how it happened, for people to get an understanding of what's going on within the CSA, and to know that the people are trying to make change for the positive?
Yes, and I think that's one of the things we need to get better at, and again, through our senior staff, our communication strategy, our communication policy, how we communicate with our membership, our customer service sort of attitude towards we take to our membership. Because a lot of times, you know, not everything we do is bad. Sure, there's some things that we really need to improve on, and we should get hammered sometimes because, you know what, it's part of the business. But there's a lot of things we do well, you know, and whether it be putting on events or, you know, our coaches do a very good job at the youth team level, work very hard. You know, and I recall last year I sat down with a few fans and in Toronto, and you know what? They made some very good points, and but they also, when I told them when I answered some of their questions, they were like, "Well, we didn't know that." And there's a perfect example of passionate guys who just want the good for the game, just like myself, who weren't aware of some things that were going on. Yeah, they were still questioning things, but that's good because people need to hold our feet to the fire. That's their job. Just like our job is to make sure that, you know what, we provide results. So I think our job is to, become much better communicators and tell our story a lot better than we tell it.